So without further ado, please welcome Tracy and Sachin.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, hi, everybody. So Sachin's fun fact is way more fun than mine is. I think we can all just agree to that. Real quick, I know y'all just heard a couple introductions already, but I'm Tracy Wallace, editor-in-chief over at BigCommerce. I've been for about 4 years. I have about a decade in e-commerce in particular, covering retail and technology and how e-commerce has really begun to take over as one of the major channels for retailers. I also come from a family business background. I'm a co-owner in a pillow manufacturing company down in Texas as well. So know quite a bit about going B2B, about B2B e-commerce as well as going direct to consumer in those places. And then Sachin, if you want.
Hi everyone, my name is Sachin Vathavan. I'm the Director of Technology Partnerships at BigCommerce. Before joining the partnerships team, I actually ran our sales engineering organization. So I have done thousands of conversations with merchants, especially from the marketing and e-commerce divisions, to understand how they evaluate technology. As Tracy is going to be walking us through tons of ideas and trends and best practices, my role is really to complement that from a technology standpoint on how technology in general should enable you all to implement those best practices.
Yeah. Cool. So a lot of the trends that I'm going to be talking through today deal specifically with how to drive more traffic to your web store and how to also make sure that you're playing nice with Amazon. Those are the topics that I talk to customers about most often. A lot of brands seem to look at Amazon as a competitor, don't want to sell their products there, but Amazon can actually be a fantastic way to make additional revenue and then invest that revenue back in your web channel so that you can earn more email addresses and use Klaviyo more often. But beyond that, email is just a really, really incredible, as everybody here knows, way to talk to your customers. And on Amazon, you don't get that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to drive more traffic there, as well as how to play nice with Amazon. And as Sachin said, he'll show you how to implement it all. Cool. So step number 1 is to build a trust funnel. Content and commerce are no longer two separate entities. This is as true for e-commerce companies as it is for publishers. Content, beyond being a really great driver of organic, really, really needs to help your customer. It needs to help them solve a problem. It also needs to really help drive trust. And that's because these days, millennials and Gen Z, so Gen Z, that generation right below millennials, they've grown up online. They use ad blockers. They even use platforms where ads don't exist. I think I read an article the other day that said VSCO is now the #1 platform for Gen Z. Snapchat used to be it, but then Snapchat introduced ads, and now everybody's over on VSCO. Does anybody in here use that? I haven't used it. Do you say VSCO?
I learned about it after you told me about it.
Anyway, so they're over there using that. Millennials and Gen Z do not like to be advertised to, at least not in the transactional sense. They like to feel community. They like to build trust through research, through social proof. All of y'all know this to be true. But ultimately what it means is that you need to be educating your customer base rather than using Facebook ads to a cold prospecting list. Instead, driving people over to your content via content marketing, and then retargeting those people back to your site in a more transactional way that way, right? So less advertising specifically to those cold audiences, and instead advertising to people who've already been to your site. We know that this works incredibly well because micro brands and DNVBs, has anyone in here heard that term? Digital native vertical brand. It's like all the brands that you guys love. It's Casper, it's Warby Parker. It's anybody who is just displacing legacy retailers right now. All of them have figured out how to spend advertising dollars incredibly well, and it has not been through cold prospecting transactional advertising on Facebook or wherever, or Google ads. It's been more through content marketing, community building, and then retargeting people back to their products. This is something that most of the legacy CPG brands as well as B2B brands are not doing well right now. They're beginning to learn how to do it, and they're acquiring a bunch of the DNV brands to begin doing it. But again, what Warby Parker, what Casper, all do incredibly well. is that they empathize with a need, they solve that need through content, through experiences, and then they measure what is actually working, which is those retargeting ads on an audience that has been brought to your website through organic and through research methods of their own. Cool. So 3 brands that are doing this incredibly well, because you might be thinking, how the heck do I write content that encourages somebody to buy my products without me being incredibly promotional? Because this content isn't about selling. It is about educating. These first 2 brands up here, Uncrate and Gear Patrol, are both publishers by and large, but they are publishers that work with brands to sell products. Both of them have audiences of more than 1 million, and Gear Patrol was actually acquired, I think it was this year, maybe end of last, by Hearst, which is Hearst, one of the largest publishing companies. Everyone in here, y'all know who they are. They acquired them because they haven't been able to figure out how in their own content to push people over to products. Gear Patrol's figured it out. Gear Patrol is a pioneer in what is called brand journalism, which is writing really great stories about how products enrich our lives. That kind of content turns into a sell when you can really connect with somebody emotionally and build an audience not based on selling the product, but based on explaining an experience that that consumer or that person has had with that product. Uncrate has done very, very similar work, but mostly through product review type content, and has built up a bunch of trust through those. Those are both 2 really great publications to go check out, read through their content, and see how you can take parts of what they're doing and implement it into your own blog strategy. Woolrich over here is doing very, very similar work by writing out partnering with influencers, and then writing out a bunch of content and producing a bunch of really cool videos that ultimately tell a larger story. Sure, the people in their videos are wearing their products. This is more traditional content marketing. Sure, the people are wearing their products, but they aren't talking about Woolrich in particular, right? It's more about telling the story, more about connecting with somebody. Their individual kind of tagline, I suppose, that's not what it actually is, but is about uniqueness and individuality, right? So they're using those influencers in those videos to go after people who emotionally resonate with that kind of message. Cool. So just to recap, educate and build trust before you actually sell. You are not going to do incredibly well with transactional advertising, especially to a millennial and Gen Z audience. Again, stop advertising your products, sort of. Definitely retarget people that you were driving back to your site through organic or through your content marketing efforts back to a transactional ad. But transactional ads should be the second part of your ad strategy. Content should be your first, and then build trust through content and experiences. Become that brand that is telling emotional stories that ultimately drive people to your site, but also sell the product at the same time.
So I think from a technology standpoint, we all are learning that content and experience is key, right? And in many conversations that I've had with merchants, oftentimes the challenges or hurdles in understanding that content is king, it comes into implementing it, right? So either marketers are not empowered to be able to go into the e-commerce platform and be able to do it themselves, or they don't have the resources available, or there are too many dependencies on IT, right? So this is where the technology and e-commerce platforms can enable the marketers with no coding required to be able to make minor changes or use templates to get started. Or even more than that, even if some of the capabilities are not available natively in the platform, the platform should enable you to use third-party apps that allow you to do drag and drop functionality to be able to build the compelling, engaging experiences that Tracy was talking about, right? If you go to the next one, sorry. So I know Tracy just talked about how content and commerce are merging, and that is absolutely true from a strategy standpoint. What's been happening from a technology standpoint is a little bit of decoupling, right? So when you look at the e-commerce technology history, we all started with the monolithic platforms, right? So the businesses and merchants at that time wanted everything in one black box, right? So I want that system to do ERP, to be my CMS, to be my e-commerce, to be my marketing, everything, one goes in, one goes out, right? And then from there, we moved into commerce-led. And for the last about 10 years, we've been living in this commerce-led industry where the technology, core e-commerce capabilities are provided by the platform, and then the partners, technology partners, provide the additional capability on top of that, right? What we are entering now and have entered is this experience-led industry, right? So everything is around what technology can I use, and this is really from a marketing standpoint, what technology can I use that enables that experience for my customer that Tracy just talked about, right? And how important that is. So that's the era that we're in. And I don't know how many people here know what headless commerce is. I wish there was a better term for it because it sounds too much like Game of Thrones, you know, it's just has that feeling of headless. But it's very simple, right? The idea is that your customer experience, so how your consumers experience your product, doesn't necessarily have to be powered by how they buy the product, right? So it's separating that user layer from behind the scenes e-commerce layer, right? So another way to think of headless is commerce as a service, right? So e-commerce is really kind of behind the scenes, whereas you get to control the front end. And the reason it's important is because for the longest time, and I think a lot of you can relate to it, because you're either in these two buckets. You're either in a bucket of you have a great e-commerce platform, but the CMS is kind of right? So you're sacrificing the CMS power because you love the e-commerce platform. Or you're on a really awesome CMS, but the e-commerce is kind of missing out on the full horsepower. So you're sacrificing on the e-commerce capabilities because you love your CMS, right? That dependency doesn't have to be there, right? So a lot of the platforms are now kind of decoupling that to enable and empower you to use the best of breed on both CMS and e-commerce. Okay.
Cool. Step number 2, gratification, instant or otherwise. How many people in here can hit 2-day free shipping? 1? Great job. That's awesome. We all know that Amazon has raised the bar here, right? I mean, it's a loss center for them, but they make money up for it in a variety of other ways. AWS, so on and so forth. Amazon kills it with convenience, right? But that doesn't have to be your strength. One of the main ways that individual brands and individual websites can really stand out is by not competing with Amazon directly, but figuring out exactly what it is that your brand can do different from Amazon. Providing an on-site experience that people can't get on Amazon's important, right? Amazon's a commodity market. Your website is not a commodity market. You are not selling a commodity. Telling that story and building that experience is incredibly important. And then also trying to figure out in terms of shipping what you can give to your customer, how you can bring that experience through, the on-site experience, through in shipping that, yeah, sure, maybe you can't hit those 2-day marks, but you can do a bunch of other stuff, right? So what is the best version of your brand, whether it's something memorable, whether it's saving money, whether you're just making shopping more convenient, all of this, because we know sales and branding doesn't stop once the order is shipped. I told Sachin this the other day, and then I never took this off. I gotta stop using impress the pants off people. It just needs to be like impress the socks off people or something else, because it just provides a really awful visual. But anyways, impress people with what you can do with your branding and with your delivery. So if you can't do 2-day shipping, or maybe you can't even do a personalized box. I'm starting my own business right now, and I'm like, I cannot afford, from a margin standpoint, just starting up a business, to have a completely personalized box. But I can't afford to have personalized tissue paper, and I can't afford to get a personalized note in there, and I can't afford to use an email software or a loyalty software to make sure that those people feel incredibly important and make sure that they know that I'm incredibly thankful that they chose my brand and my products, right? So think through what those small things are that you can do. Heads up, if as you're thinking through something, you're like, wow, that's not scalable. That's probably a really good idea. You should probably do that thing for as long as you possibly can. The things that win the most customer loyalty are the things that are not scalable. That said, there are companies out there that can write handwritten notes for you. There are companies out there who can, 3PL companies, that partner up with like tissue companies, and they can take all of that work off your hands. Honesty also goes a really, really long way here. We all know that Amazon is incredibly customer-centric in everything that they do, occasionally or perhaps often to the detriment of the brands that are selling on that platform. What you can do, though, on your own site is be honest and upfront always, 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 and I'm sure all of you are, about your shipping policies. Make sure that you are delivering on time and delivering in pristine condition. I know that all of this just sounds like table stakes, but it's important and worth repeating. But this is the part I really wanted to talk about because these are 3 brands that are doing it incredibly well. Dazity is a brand that makes about 22 mil in annual online revenue. They sell ping pong tables and pool tables and just games in general. They use freight as a result in order to ship all of these products. They have to, right? Freight is not going to get it to your door in 2 days. Instead, what they do is they allow you at shipping to check a box if you want somebody to come and help you actually set up the product when they deliver it. Or if it's around the holidays, they'll set up another little box that says, hey, this is actually going to be a surprise Christmas gift. Please don't come when my kids are here. If you can if you can tell me when you're going to be here, then I can make sure they're out of the house, so on and so forth. And then that person can bring it in for you, help you hide it, also give you instructions on how to set it up for you and your partner on Christmas Eve to see if you can make that experience a little bit better. Ginny's, which I hear somebody from Ginny's is here at the conference. I don't know if you're in here, but I'd be excited if you were. Anyway, Ginny's sells ice cream, and they ship ice cream around the country. I can, in Austin, Texas, in Austin, well, like in August, 106-degree weather, have ice cream sent to me in a dry ice package. So when you open it, it has like the big poof that comes up. It's a really fantastic gift. It's what I send to most of speakers for our own conferences or any of our investors. Just a really cool experience, right? They also don't ship it in just 2 days. It takes about 5 days to get to you. And then Packed Party over here, they also don't ship in 2 days. What they do is they are a party company, so they market to women in sororities or women looking to throw, the best bachelorette of their lives. So instead of shipping in 2 days, they include a bunch of extra samples and products in there, right? Whether it's a little bit of extra glitter or some unicorn tattoos or whatever it might be. Tiny items that don't really hurt their margins by any means, but those small items that they can add in to ultimately impress people. So recap, meet or beat shopper expectations, brand your post-sale experiences, and be honest and reachable. Remember, you don't have to ship in 2 days, though it's amazing if you can. But you don't have to. Figure out what your strength is and double down on that.
So I really like that, the fact that I think we all as consumers also can relate to the fact that we will get 1 hour, 2 hour, second-day delivery from Amazon, but we respect the brands that we buy from, and we understand that they can't always scale to that level. But it really comes down to, are they communicating with us? Are they being honest with shipping policy, like you said, right? So if it is going to be 5 days, if I know that up front, if I know that where it's at, makes a big difference. I think from an e-commerce technology standpoint, to really being able to create those experiences, the system has to be open, right? And there are 2 areas that many marketers and merchants should think about. What does open mean from an e-commerce platform standpoint, right? And the 2 areas of openness that you should always ask for is the front end, right? Is can I customize my e-commerce platform to build the experience that is unique for our consumers, right? Either that's what they see in the checkout or how they see the product catalog or how the product images are displayed, whatever that experience is that's unique to your business, you should have the flexibility to be able to customize the e-commerce platform versus the other way around, right? Because you don't want to change your business to meet what the technology can do. The other area of openness, this is also very critical and really important for long-term growth, is how does your e-commerce play well with other systems in place? Right? Because some of you may have an ERP, some of you may be thinking about changing that ERP 2 years, 5 years down the road. You want to make sure that there's plug and play and there's integrations that are either available or will be available as you change the other systems in place, right? So those are the 2 areas of openness that you want to look at from an e-commerce standpoint.
Yeah, and then, I know at the keynote earlier they mentioned multiple takeaways. Shipper HQ and ShipBob, 2 really, really great shipping solutions in the case that you're looking for any.
And then, since we talked about honesty and communication, your e-commerce platform can really enable and automate some of that, right? So if you think about if your consumers can log into their My Account, right, at any time of the day and be able to see where their order's at, how many orders they have, what they've purchased from you in the past, being able to look at, initiate returns, reorder an order, right? So if I've already bought something and I want to order it again, why do I have to go through the same process of finding that product and entering the credit card, right? Stored credit card is another way, right? We're all getting used to and trusting applications and apps to be able to provide our credit card if it makes it easier for us to buy the second and third time. And then the loyalty and gamification is another thing where if I'm getting points, right, these are all the ways that you can incentivize your shoppers to build that experience that's different from Amazon, right? So the platform should enable all of this technology and integration for you to be able to deliver that to your consumers.
Speaking of Amazon. This is actually, so I work a lot with a man named James Thompson, who's the former head of selling on Amazon. He now runs multiple of his own companies, but he said this to me one time, which is if you are not selling your products on Amazon, someone else is. And that's a massive issue because you are losing brand ownership at that point in time because they likely aren't selling it at the right price. And as a result, for instance, if somebody on Amazon is selling your product for half off, you're going to have a lot of trouble convincing wholesalers to buy your product at that same price when consumers can get it online for cheaper, right? Anyways, brand ownership is incredibly important. Selling on Amazon is also incredibly important despite all of the other challenges that go along with Amazon. But here's the good news. There is a race amongst the giants right now. Facebook and Google and Amazon and Walmart are all in a showdown to earn consumer trust and to win data. It's really important for them on Wall Street to do those things. What that ultimately means for you as retailers, though, is that you get to benefit from it, right? Facebook has just launched Facebook Marketplace, which they are hoping will be a competitor to Amazon, and they are doubling down on that. How can you get your products in there knowing that Facebook is going to be spending money there? It comes at no cost to merchants, right? Amazon's ad network within their platform makes them money, also sends traffic to you, and they're hoping for that to be a competitor with Google Ads. How can you begin testing your products in there, knowing that they are spending money there trying to beat out one of their competitors? Instagram is continuing to make additional shoppable experiences. I believe there was news the other day that they're going to be launching a separate app in particular for that. How can you, again, make sure that you're getting your products in there, knowing that Instagram is investing in that, and doubling down? Google is really focused on voice commerce and also always continuing to update their algorithm. How can you get really, really great at SEO to make sure that when voice commerce, or as voice commerce continues to take off, that your products are showing up there really, really quickly? Answer to all of this is that you don't have to do it alone. All of these companies have actually built the tools specifically for you. Not only that, they work with platforms in order to make it really easy for you to integrate. More than that, though, they work with brands just like you guys. So each one of these organizations has done an incredible job at working with these organizations, so much so that most of them now live and work on Facebook's Small Business Advisory Board, Google's Advisory Board, so on and so forth. So Spearmint Love in particular started about 2 years ago, really optimizing for Facebook advertising and shopping on Instagram. No, shopping on Instagram wasn't available then. Instagram advertising. And they did so incredibly well that they now have case studies on Facebook, on Instagram, and they are part of Facebook's Small Business Advisory Board where they get to beta test every single product that's coming out before it comes out, oftentimes before platforms are even brought into the conversation. How can you begin to double down on those areas, use the tools and products that these organizations find incredibly important for them, and then ultimately leverage that relationship to get your brand more visibility? Spearmint Love was even included in Facebook's Q3 2017 announcement. They've done some incredible stuff.
They also have an advantage. They have tons of cute pictures or pictures of cute babies, right? So
that helps. Native Union over here was one of the first brands to start using shopping on Instagram. As a result, they increased their traffic from Instagram 2,000% over to their website. Again, it was just the very, very first time consumers were beginning to see these little bubbles pop up on Instagram. They were able to do that mostly just through platform connections, right? How can you build a relationship with your platform, again, or with these organizations in order to make sure that you are in line as quickly as possible to become a part of this? Beach RC over here was one of the first brands. They're an omni-channel brand, which essentially means they sell everywhere, but they started with a brick and mortar store over on the East Coast, launched a web store, and then began slowly pushing their products into Amazon and into eBay. Today, they're making about 20,000 extra each month just through Amazon alone. And they're not even pushing all of their products over there, right? It's like a side channel for them that they're able to keep up and running through integrations and working directly with Amazon, because Amazon's very interested in getting people like them up and running and using their platform. Cool. Don't fear Amazon. Utilize Facebook Marketplace and shopping on Instagram. Again, anything, Facebook Marketplace right now, how many people have heard about it? Cool. How many people are using it? Just a few. Cool. So it's pretty new, right? Not a lot of news around it, not a lot of success stories around it, but to Facebook, it's their brand new product. It is their brand new baby. It is free for brands and merchants to put their products there. There's no reason why your product shouldn't be there, beginning to use and hopefully take advantage of the money Facebook's going to be putting into that, and then continue optimizing for Google Shopping and voice commerce.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for merchants to think, I have my store, and then I have omni-channel strategy, right? You can't decouple that, because your store, your own brand, your own presence is part of the omni-channel strategy, right? As a result of that, your e-commerce platform should make it easy and enable you to build that omni-channel strategy, right? So, and when you think about the role e-commerce platforms play is listing, right? So if you are adding a new product to your storefront, how easy it is for you to also add that product in any channels that you have enabled, right? Instead of you adding your product in your store, then going to Amazon, Amazon seller account, then go to eBay account, versus you just add it one time and it publishes it whichever channels you've enabled. The other part of the equation is orders, right? So once you have enabled multiple channels, you obviously are now getting orders from those multiple channels, right? So your e-commerce platform should play that central role of bringing all those orders in, so you have better visibility into what's going on with which channels are working better, which products are working on which channels better, right? Because there might be some trends there. So again, e-commerce platform should enable omni-channel strategy, because your store is part of your omni-channel strategy as well.
Cool. Mobile. So every time I mention mobile in talks, also every time I mention shipping, people are like, yeah, we know, we get it, it's important. But so many people still aren't optimizing for mobile that it is really, really important to still talk about. Not mostly because, but another big reason why is because as of July of this year, Google did their mobile speed update, in which how quickly your mobile site loads will affect your ranking, both on mobile and on desktop. It's not a joke anymore. Your site needs to load really, really quickly on mobile. There's two big ways that you can make this happen. One, use an image optimizer. Akamai is a really good one, which will essentially, you upload your images, they show up larger and bigger on desktop, and then they go down in size to help your site load really, really quickly. You can also do this yourself manually by going to, a tiny PNG, for instance, and uploading your products. But tools like Akamai can help quite a bit. Also, AMP. So Google has released their open source project, AMP. Again, similar to what I was talking about for the last slides. Not a whole lot of stats or data around how incredibly well it is performing, but we do know that sites are loading a whole lot quicker, and we know that since it is a project that Google has worked on, that there's and doubling down on, that there is good reason to begin looking into it and using it. Your developers can help you implement that. Beyond that, though, beyond like the site speed, once you actually get people to that site, once you actually get people to the page, mobile browsers need as few clicks as possible to get to checkout. This is true for desktop people as well, but especially true for mobile. So you need to be doing everything in your power to reduce those clicks. A lot of people are optimizing for their product pages, turning those product pages into landing pages rather than sending them to the home page, and then allowing people to check out right there on the page. I'll show you an example of that here in a second. And then again, make checkout a breeze. Use Apple Pay, use Amazon Pay, use PayPal One Touch. Again, everything in your power, these tools are out there, these brands are making them. How can you make sure that checkout on mobile is as easy as a single click? 3 brands doing it really well. This one over here on the left, Raleigh Nation, is a better example if you have a large catalog. They also have a large catalog and have created all of their product pages in a more landing page-like fashion. You can see that this is actually a video up there, really increases engagement on the page, which is a signal to Google that it's more important, and as a result will rank higher. And then as you scroll through their page, you'll see really, really easy to check out options in there. NATO Mounts and Zippa both only have like 1 or 2 products, so maybe not as relevant for everyone else, but the 2 of them have created mobile, like they started with, when they went to their designers, they said, create this for mobile, and their pages are a single, or their sites are a single page. As you land there, you just scroll on down, you learn everything you need to about the product, and then you can very, very easily check out. If you have a small catalog, this is a fantastic idea and option for mobile. So optimize for site speed, AMP and Akamai can help. Simplify site nav and checkout, and then incorporate the appropriate mobile wallets.
And I would reiterate, we all understand mobile is different, but we have to start treating mobile experience as different, right? So I don't know how many of your storefronts have the hamburger menu, right? We're definitely seeing a trend where many merchants are going mobile first from a design, because what they used to do is they would design their website for the laptop screen, and then they would just make sure that it's mobile responsive, and it'll be a great experience for mobile, right? But we all know that mobile is very experienced. When was the last time you guys bought something on your mobile device, and when you got to checkout, there you are trying to enter that 16-digit credit card number and probably didn't get it right the first time, or the CVV code? That's just not a great experience on mobile, right? Why not use mobile digital wallets where we are already trusting our phones with tons of information, including our credit cards, right? So why not take advantage of that and automatically display the PayPal or Apple Pay or Visa checkout option to the user, because the e-commerce platform can detect if the order is coming from mobile, right? And make that experience better. Another trend is on consumer financing, where the platforms, again from a mobile experience, can make it easier for the shopper, not because they can't afford it, right? If somebody wants to buy a $1,000 purse and they can afford it, but if an option for them to make 10 payments of $100 each is easy, why not, right? Why not give them that choice, right? So really, digital wallets and consumer financing are 2 trends that technology enables, and again, it's a great service to your customers and to your consumers. Tracy already touched on this AMP and Akamai, right? Those very, very important technologies. Your e-commerce platform should automatically enable those for you. You should not have to do anything other than just understand them. But I would just go a little bit deeper into from a technical standpoint. When you think about your consumers, right? And I know we've talked a lot about creating engaging experience for your shoppers. So oftentimes when you're creating that engaging experience, we rely on the horsepower that the laptop or the desktop offers, right? So if you have some sort of a customization where I'm clicking on this and it's displaying these products, et cetera, when we implement those customizations, we're counting on that the back and forth, either it's an API call or something like that, the person is on a laptop and they would be fine. The reality is, when that same shopper is on a 3G network on an older version of mobile phone, tries to get that same experience, it's very different, right? So I think most people here would remember when we used to build M.dot website, right? Because we wanted mobile users to go there and everybody to go to our URL. Google AMP is nothing more than that, but you don't have to build an M.dot. What Google AMP does is it automatically creates a mobile optimized version of your website pages and presents it to the mobile user, right? And any of that complexity of the customization gets distilled down, so it doesn't matter what bandwidth they're on, the experience, the buying experience is the same, right? So very, very important. It's a must-have. It's not an option anymore, right? And Akamai, again, image manager. Content is a pretty big piece of it too, because like Tracy said, merchants should not have to worry about what version of the image the audience will see, right? We don't care which device, how big their screen size is, right? We want their experience to be optimized, right? So you should upload the highest resolution image you got. Because what if that person is on this big screen TV and doing shopping there, right? So we want to optimize for that experience and then automatically render the right version of the image for the consumer.
Yep. Cool. So again, your e-store, essentially your web store and Amazon, are two of your most important channels. Amazon can be a massive, I say can, it is a massive revenue driver for brands that are using it and using it effectively well. A lot of those brands are then reinvesting those funds back into their website, right? People talk about SEO being free. It is not free because you have to pay somebody to do it, and it is a lot of work. So they're reinvesting either in SEO or email marketing tactics or figuring out better retargeting strategies, right? So think through how to get your products over to Amazon, making sure that they are optimized for A9, which is Amazon's own search algorithm, which is different than Google's, and then also retargeting traffic that's actually making it to your site, giving those folks an experience, and making sure then that you were providing them that transactional ad to bring them back.
And just make sure your technology is enabling you, not hindering you from accomplishing those goals that Tracy talked about.
Cool.
Thank you. I
Okay.
think we can, yep.
Yeah. No, thank you, Sachin and Tracy. You're giving a round of applause. Thank you. We have some time for questions. I know we got started a few minutes late, but we have 5 minutes. So we have mics that we can hand you so people can hear your question.
Hi, thanks for the presentation.
Sure.
You guys were talking about Google. You talked about Google Shopping. You didn't mention Google Express as a channel. Or do you have any feedback from customers that are on there?
I mean, I haven't. Yeah, I mean, a lot of our merchants use Google Shopping, and it's often through third-party apps that enable them to sell their products and be listed in Google Shopping, just like any other channels, but not much experience with Google Express.
Nope, hasn't been something that's bubbled up.
Okay, and then the other question I had, and you kind of mentioned this, how is BigCommerce optimizing for mobile in the platform? I mean, you have the bullet points up there, but you didn't give any specifics, so we can talk afterwards.
Yeah, we can catch up afterwards, but I think in general, it's about mobile responsiveness. It's about the Google AMP. It's about Akamai, right? So it's just making sure that when somebody builds a store on BigCommerce, by default, that store is optimized for mobile experience as well. But I can get into a little bit more details later on.
Right, yeah, so Akamai and AMP are both built into all of our themes. So if you are on the BigCommerce platform, those two things exist for you.
Okay, great question. Other questions?
Hi. So you guys mentioned a lot of the demographic, like the younger demographic, and marketing as far as like a quicker checkout, a quicker process. Now, to invert that for older customers who are more hesitant to put all of their credit card information and remembering their data, because one of my stores that I deal with, we have an older demographic, and I know privacy concerns are one of the things that we struggle with for them to like understand, I guess. So on the flip side of that, do you guys have any recommendations?
Yeah, a few. So first, Amazon Pay really is a fantastic option for checkout for everybody, right? Older demographics use Amazon as well. So essentially what Amazon Pay is, it's the pay button that you put at checkout. You still get you get the email, you get the money, you get everything. All it does for the consumer is pull in their information that they already have stored over on Amazon. So if they're logged into Amazon, then they can check out there. There are other technologies, though, that cater specifically to that audience. So Visa checkout, for instance, is really important to them. So is also adding security badges to your site, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that used to be talked about a lot. I used to do presentations on getting the right security badges. Millennials and younger generations don't seem to care, but older generations do, right? So making sure that those are really highly visible.
Yeah.
And I would just
Thank you.
add that to that is that the customizations and the openness that we were talking about, right? The e-commerce platform, that's a very good example, right? Of you have a different audience that maybe wants to see bigger font on their checkout. Maybe they want to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step, or maybe they would just want to see a one long page, right? Again, if that's the need, the platform should enable you to implement that experience for them. That's a great example.